So it's been a long time, like pretty much a year since Ryan Garcia has been in the ring.
Yeah,
Of
over
course,
a year.
last against Luke Campbell, where he managed to get the TKO victory after getting dropped and facing some adversity, but came back strong and got the win. And now it's been a while. We're pretty much just kind of excited to see him come back again into the ring and to see who he fights because of course he's a huge star in the sport at such a young age, and also he's just a pretty big influencer as a whole. So
Yeah, two times now his fights have been replaced by a different opponent. As in July of last year, he was supposed to fight. He was planned to fight Javier Fortuna, but that fight got canceled because Ryan was suffering from a bit of health problems and he wasn't the best mentally. He wasn't mentally all there, so he took a bit of time off to kind of recover. But we just haven't seen him recently. And then obviously Jojo Diaz also that fight got canceled and got replaced with Devin Haney, who was able to outpoint Jojo Diaz over the course of that fight. So people want to see him back in there because we haven't seen him in over a year now, and by the time he gets back, it'll be a year and a couple months. So we want to see these guys fight, especially because this is like the years that he should be learning the most. He's 23 years old. He's super young in the sport, and he should be getting out there. He should be fighting as much as he can. And obviously in boxing, there's a lot of politics, a lot of fights that don't get made, especially with undefeated guys who don't want to go up against other guys who could pose a challenge and maybe take the row. And it's just unfortunate to see that because there's so many young and talented fighters that should be fighting each other, but it's just not and it's not ending up happening. But hopefully we see some matches soon because a lot of these guys look to be hungry. They look to be getting back in there. And Ryan Garcia, he wants to fight. He's been on Twitter for a while now, saying that he wants to fight all these different guys. Cambosis, he's been calling out the current champion who just defeated Teofimo Lopez, and also eyeing a fight between him and Isaac Cruz, which is definitely an interesting matchup considering that he just fought Tank Davis, and Ryan Garcia wants to fight Tank Davis as well, maybe one up him with the performance as Tank went the distance with Cruz.
yeah, and also as what we've heard from Canelo himself, who's of course kind of taking Ryan under his wing, that he hasn't really been training that hard, and that he wanted to see more of Ryan in the gym, pretty much just putting the hard work and getting better. He needs to get experience like in the ring with better fighters, and I feel like his return, it's a really good opportunity to fight a decent fighter, maybe like Isaac Cruz, who put a lot of pressure into on Tank and had a very close fight with him. And if he's able to put on a statement, then it would be huge for him in the lightweight division.
Yeah, and I think he has some extraordinary talents, like his speed and just his power. It's crazy to see how in a blink of an eye he could put anyone down. I mean, we saw a brutal body shot get landed on Luke Campbell, which just put him out, and he just was not able to get up. He couldn't get up from that body shot. It was super devastating, and we've seen other fighters go down by huge right hands and left hands. We saw him be able to defeat guys like Romero Duno and Francisco Fonseca in the first round back to back. So this guy is super explosive and super fast. That's why they call him the Flash. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see him back in there. He has so many great talents, and we don't want to see that go to waste. We want to see him back in there. There are a couple of flaws in his game, like maybe his footwork isn't the best. Especially we saw a bit of gaps in his footwork when he went up against a southpaw in Luke Campbell, which could maybe pose a threat when he goes up against Tank, who's also a southpaw. Also, his movement, his head movement isn't really the best, but he's able to maintain distance, but doesn't really have the best like overall movement. So we want to see him just improve as much as he can. Don't waste this potential that he has because we've seen so many talents from this guy, and he looks to be super sharp and super snappy with his punches. We see his shadow boxing, his speed is just insane. So we want to see him more in the ring and less on social media.
Yeah, and he was rumored to have like a lot of big fights, like such as against Devin Haney, and of course people calling for the Tank fight, which those would have been huge fights because of course Ryan's a huge star, and those guys are also big stars in the sport. And I feel like that also would have been huge to elevate his star power as a whole and as a draw as well into boxing. Like we said, his experience in the ring to improve his ring IQ and to kind of be able to compete at the highest of levels. It's just really important that he gets in there and pretty much just gets fights in, and not as much time as out. Especially the more time out is just the worse for him as developing, and just that he's training and making sure that he's actually getting in the right practice.
Yeah, there's so many lightweights right now that are undefeated, or even guys that just aren't booked right now. So there are possible matchups for Ryan Garcia. I mean, some guys aren't booked. Devin Haney, George Kambosos, Tank Davis. Vasily Lomachenko, even Teofimo Lopez, who's probably going to move up to 140, so maybe he's not going to be in the picture anymore. But there are a lot of guys who are freed up right now. Even Jojo Diaz could be a potential opponent for him, and he said that he wants to come back in April. So that could definitely be possible, but I think the most likely outcome would be him fighting Isaac Cruz. As I said, I think it just makes sense that he would want that fight to try to one up Tank maybe, and just get a good fight under his win, but not like the highest level competition like a champion.